On a bitterly cold December night, snowflakes swirled through the empty streets of a small town in Ohio. Inside a tiny, run-down house at the edge of town, Margaret Dawson, a frail elderly woman, sat wrapped in a worn-out quilt, sipping a cup of weak tea. At 72, she lived alone, surviving on a meager pension that barely covered her bills. Her life had been a series of hardships, yet her heart remained warm and kind. As she reached to turn off the flickering lamp, a faint sound pierced the howling wind. A cry. Faint, desperate, and full of sorrow. Margaret's heart clenched. Struggling to her feet, she shuffled to the door and opened it. Her breath caught in her throat. There, on her frozen doorstep, wrapped in nothing but a thin blanket, lay a tiny baby. His cheeks were flushed red from the cold, his tiny fists trembling. "Oh, my goodness!" Margaret gasped. Without hesitation, she scooped up the child, clutching him to her chest, her body shielding him from the icy wind. She hurried inside, wrapping him in the warmest blankets she had. As she rocked him gently by the fire, tears filled her eyes. "Who could abandon such a precious soul on a night like this?" she whispered. She should have called the authorities. She knew that. But as the baby's small fingers grasped hers, she felt something shift deep inside her. She had no family, no one to love, no one who needed her. But this child, this tiny, helpless boy, did. That night, Margaret made the most important decision of her life. She would raise the boy as her own. Years of sacrifice. Margaret named him Daniel. Raising a child at her age, with almost no money, was beyond difficult. She sold whatever valuables she had, took up sewing jobs for neighbors, and often went hungry so Daniel would never feel the pangs of an empty stomach. She taught him kindness, honesty, and the value of hard work. Though they lived in poverty, their home was filled with love. Daniel grew into a bright, compassionate boy, always determined to make his grandma proud. Despite their struggles, Margaret never once regretted her choice. "You are my greatest blessing," she would tell Daniel every night before bed. When Daniel turned 18, he earned a scholarship to a prestigious university. It meant he had to leave Margaret, but she encouraged him with a brave smile. "Go, my boy. Chase your dreams. Make something of yourself." Daniel worked tirelessly, juggling multiple jobs while excelling in his studies. He wrote to Margaret every week, promising that one day, he would repay her for all she had done. The unexpected reunion. 2 years passed, and Margaret's health declined. Though she never let Daniel know, she struggled more than ever. Her old bones ached, her small pension barely covered her needs, and she longed for the boy she had raised with all her heart. One evening, as she sat knitting in her dimly lit living room, the sound of an approaching car startled her. It wasn't just any car. It was a sleek, black luxury vehicle, its headlights casting a bright glow against the darkness. Margaret's hands trembled as she opened the door. Standing before her was a tall, well-dressed young man. But it wasn't just any man, it was Daniel. Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, my boy." Before she could say another word, he dropped to his knees and took her frail hands in his. "Grandma," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "I promised you I'd come back for you." Margaret's heart pounded. "But, this car, these clothes." Daniel smiled through his tears. "I started my own company. It's doing better than I ever imagined. And it's all because of you, Grandma. Everything I am, everything I have, is because of your love and sacrifices." Margaret gasped as Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of keys. "I bought you a house, Grandma. A warm, beautiful home where you'll never struggle again." Margaret sobbed, overwhelmed. "Oh, Daniel. I didn't do it for any reward. I did it because I love you." Daniel embraced her tightly. "And I love you, Grandma. You are my mother, my guardian angel. Now, let me take care of you. That night, as Margaret sat in the warmth of her new home, surrounded by comfort she had never dared to dream of, she realized something. Love, true love, always finds its way back. And sometimes, the sacrifices we make come back to us in the most beautiful, unexpected ways.